Hey guys, I wanted to share an interesting little clamp that I just came up with. And it happened when I was working with this, my plasma cutter with my circle cutting jig, and I was wanting a way to set this pivot here. Now, of course, simple way is you just grab a pipe wrench and turn this thing around till it tightens up. But then you're just kind of hoping that it'll tighten up in the right place and that'll be tight enough, or it won't be too tight to get it to where you want it. So I wanted something to leave it swivel that I could clamp it down. So I started doing a little bit of thinking and came up with all sorts of elaborate ideas and mechanisms that I could employ, or simple ones. But either they were too elaborate or they required welding onto cast iron, which I've done and I've been successful at. I just didn't want to take the time to do it. And so what I came up with is what's down here. It's a little clamp. So you set whatever position you want and just tighten this thing up. And it stays, well, you can see it keeps it quite firm. Won't let it move around. You loosen it back up. And it's once again free to spin around. And not only that, it will clamp both sides of this pipe. Now, I'll show you how I did it. How this thing works is pretty straightforward. It's just a little clamping arm. Has a nut on the back of it. So once it's in a pipe and it's spinning around and you position it wherever you want, and you take and tighten it up. As you might notice, it pulls that piece of metal in till it is on the inside of the pipe. And it holds the pipe and keeps it from turning. Well, I don't have it very tight here. You can make it as tight or as loose as you want. Alright, so we start with a coupling that has a hole drilled all the way through it. A hole size to accept this bolt. Pass through. Nice and loose. Then we have our little clamping strap. We've got a hole drilled in it as well, along with a flat that's been welded to it. We take a nut. Now, since this happened to be a flange nut, I went ahead and ground that flat. But on a normal nut that does not have the flange, you don't have to do anything. I actually put the bolt in and then put my little piece of metal up against it to weld it, to ensure that it'd be in the right place, so that once it's inside the pipe and you start tightening it up, it would keep the nut from turning. Now, since I've made this, I've figured out a little better way to do it. So I thought I'd build another one and let you see how I did it. Well, except I don't think I'll show you this. If you don't have a drill press, you're going to be in for a little bit of work. Now, my very first attempt, I had this little piece of metal. It's actually a knockout from a breaker box. And so I just put a bend on it like so. And that was a very good solution. It would completely keep the nut captured so that when you loosened it off, the nut could not push away from the back of the strap like it can with this. It's not been a problem, but I don't want it to be either. The only downside to this one, besides the material was kind of thin and didn't hold too terribly well, but the downside was that it only went one direction, and as such it would only clamp one against one of the pipes. It occurred to me that having it clamp on both would be a lot better. So I made that one. For this project, we're going to start with a piece of strap metal that you'll be able to find at any hardware store, lumber yard, home center, pretty much across the nation. It's a 1/2 inch wide, 3/16 inch thick, and it'll be the basis of a project. So the length isn't real important. This is about 4 inches long. As you can see, I marked the center. Make sure you put a center punch, a hole in there. It'll make it a whole lot easier. Over here at our little teeny drill press, it's time to drill our hole. Now, one easy way to do this when you do not have a bunch of fancy machines and a whole bunch of clamping hardware, of course you got to have a vise. Just got to. In order to keep this thing from twisting and flopping around, get another piece of that same metal, put underneath it. Just slide it into this vise. And, clamp the hell out of it. Alright. And you just drill your hole. That's all there is to it. Alright, now we need to glue this nut on this little piece of metal here to keep it from sliding off. Now, I always like to go ahead and put the bolt through to make sure that the nut will stay centered on the hole and don't have to worry about whether or not it'll be connected. Now today I'm going to use some really special glue I got from my hot melt glue gun. Now, yeah, it's a kind of funny looking glue, and when it comes time to put it in your gun, you see that it's a lot smaller, so it's got to have something to help keep it there. That means you really got to cram it in right through the center of a regular glue stick, so it'll be in the middle of it. Alright, you just get this thing all heated up, ready to go. You just come in here and give a little squirt here. Oh yeah, I like the looks of that. Yes sir. I think I'm going to try that over here on this other side. Just come in here and give it a little dab. Ooh! Just about got carried away there. Almost melted my nut. Alright, so now that we've got our nut on here, we need to put a few bends in this thing so it'll grab the pipe. Now, this is the way we're going to be pulling it, to this side of the pipe. So we need to make sure this metal strap bends over this direction. So I'm actually just going to put this in my vise and just wail on it. It's just the fun way to do it. Just like that. And we got a bend. That's quite a bend too. And now, just like that, we've got ourselves a clamp. Alright, let's assemble this thing. Insert our bolt into the coupling. Insert our strap. Get it going into the nut. Just run it on through. Now, as you run it up, you'll just pull that strap against the edges of the pipe, clamping it in place. Now, as an added benefit, probably ought to put a T on here. Make it a little easier to do. But I'm lazy and just don't want to do that right now. Okay, so back over here at our welding table, it's time to reassemble all of this. Just put the coupling on. Leave it plenty loose. Alright, that looks about like where I want it to be. Now I can just put my plasma torch back in the clamp. Position this however I like it. And just tighten it down. Oh yeah. Now this thing is not going to go twisting on me. Well, spoke too soon. Must need to be a little tighter. Oh, there we go. Oh yeah. Nice and tight. Loosen it up. Now I can adjust it some more. That's a big improvement.